Well, thank you everyone for joining us on the 10th annual IBMI Marketplace Survey. I'm Tom Huntington. I'm going to be your host and moderator today. We have an excellent panel of presenters with us today from IBM and IT Jungle. This event is being recorded and you will be able to play it back at a later point in time. To go along with this event, we also have a PDF report that we put out every year as a result of this survey information. So thank you again, and thank you to my Fortra team for helping to work on this for the last decade. It's very exciting to be here. And without further ado, we have some excellent guests with us today. We'll have them each introduce themselves. We'll start with IBMI Power Products Marketing Manager, Mr. Brandon Pedersen. Brandon.
Hi, thank you, Tom, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining. My name is Brandon Pedersen. I'm the Product Marketing Manager for IBMI and our Power portfolio, as well as our Red Hat and Modernization stack as well.
You also run the IBM Champion program too.
Yes, and congratulations to you, Tom, as well. Thank you for all you do as an IBM Champion for the IBMI business community, and congratulations to all of our returning and new champions for 2024.
Thank you for being with us, Brandon. And then we have Dan Sunt. Dan, welcome, IBMI Product Manager.
Yep, thank you. Yep, a long time supporting the IBMI customer base, many years in tech sales, and now I think in my 4th year in product management. Kind of have a focus more on our as a service, public cloud offerings, but definitely, doing quite a bit with IBMI.
Definitely a growing space. So thank you for joining us. And then Timothy Prickett Morgan. Timothy, it's always a pleasure having you every year on this, and back for year 10. And I can't say enough about what IT Jungle provides information-wise every single week to the IBMI community. So thank you for that, and welcome to the webinar.
Thank you. I don't need any further intro than that. You said it perfectly. I appreciate it. And I love being.
Thank you for being here. And then Douglas Gibbs, IBM Product Manager, maybe a new face for some of you. Those on the Power Champion or the Power IBM Champion program have met with Douglas before, but Douglas, welcome, and maybe a little background on yourself, because you might be new to some of the attendees out here.
Hi, Tom. Thank you for the invitation to join you folks on this special occasion, we'll call it. Yes, I am relatively new for some folks. I've been in the product management team for about 5 years now. And for those of you who are more accustomed to seeing Allison here, she retired in November. And upon that time, I was asked if I would step in and take on the role of IBMI product manager, which I am happy to do and enjoying all of it so far. So looking forward to meeting many of our community members here.
Well, thank you, Douglas, for joining us. And then finally, Steve Will. Steve, how are you today? And I'm sure a lot of people out there know you already, but great to have you with us, and give us a little background on what you're doing for IBM these days.
Hey, Tom. Yeah, so as CTO and Chief Architect, it's my role to make the decisions about where we spend our resources, particularly our people resources, the folks who actually make this product happen in the development community. But I also listen to a lot of clients, and I'll definitely take advantage of the results of this survey to communicate not only to our customers, but within IBM about what the IBMI community is doing. So looking forward to it.
You are also a distinguished engineer recognized by IBM, so that's really quite an honor to have that in the Power and IBMI space, so thank you for that. And then I'm Tom Huntington, EVP of Technical Solutions at the now, oh my gosh, I didn't change my name, our company name from Help Systems, it's Fortra. But nonetheless, we are still the same kind of Help Systems company we've been in the past from a IBMI focus perspective, and very excited to be here with you. And how did I miss that in my editing? We are Fortra now. We've been Fortra now for a little over a year, so apologize to my team out there for missing that one. Anyway, so IBMI community is always evolving, and every year I like to remind people of what's changed at just a high level perspective. Of course, last January, we did the 9th annual IBM Marketplace Survey. In May, IBM delivered 7.5 TR2 and 7.4 TR8. And then in North America, and really a worldwide event, the Common Power Up in-person event at Denver, and I was there. It was well attended and very exciting to see so many familiar faces and new faces at the Common Power Up, and one of the leading organizations for education on IBM. And then we have Common Europe. Last year they met in Prague. I didn't get to go to that, but I heard it was a well-attended event. We had some of my colleagues from Fortra at the event in June. And then in August, a big announcement around IBM subscription, and we'll see more of that as we roll through 2024. And I know Dan is very versed on that, one of our panelists today. And then, of course, one of our longtime friends, IBM 7.3, of course, goes into extended support in September of 2023. Followed up in September, we also had the Common User Group, I always call the Fall Conference, but a virtual event and in-person event in Virginia Beach, which was, again, some of my colleagues attended. And then finally here, kind of rounding out the year, another set of TRs for the platform, the operating system. It's never staying still. Rochester is always working on new features and things from a security perspective to protect you. As always, keep current is probably the biggest slogan I have these days. It's just from security perspective. So in today's webinar, we're going to be talking about the data center, IT initiatives, outlook for IBM, demographics, and Fortra. Before we get started, we have an interesting polling question for you. We want to know where your team is at along the journey of adopting generative AI in your data center, or in your infrastructure, I should say. So you're waiting for your ISVs to add generative AI. You're working with experts right now to do this. Working on generative AI with our own team. We've already deployed generative AI in our production. We're still creating and not yet starting a program around this. As I mentioned in the kickoff today, this survey results is being recorded. You can play it back certainly with other team members, and there is a PDF of the results. Not everything that you're going to hear today is in the PDF and vice versa, so highly recommend listening to both. And later today, I'm going to be talking to Peg Tuttle and the Incredible Eye about the Marketplace Survey, so there'll be a podcast also as a result of today's survey. So enough time on this first polling question, and I'd love to give you more time, but we got a lot of great content we must get to. So let me share this out to you. Looks like the highest percents, almost 80%, are still creating or not yet started in the AI journey. 10% are working with their own team on this topic, 8% with some external experts on the topic, and 3% are waiting on their independent software vendor to be able to provide this information for you. All right, let's get moving on to the actual survey results. So we're going to talk first about what's going on in the data center in relationship to IBM. Now, this is kind of a broad terminology because the data center might be the cloud today. It might be on-premise. It might be hybrid, where you have some IBM partitions, on site and some in the cloud, and it could be a private cloud through an MSP, or it could be public cloud technology. So I want to make sure that we're all talking kind of the same thing. So over to Tim to talk about this first set of charts. So what's in your data center, the number of Power servers and number of partitions or VMs that we see.
Yeah, I think when people answer this question, they're probably answering it for the gear they have on site. The habits are long and strong.
Yeah.
I mean, it's quite possible that there are people who have everything in the cloud, and we'll see that later in the survey. But the thing I think is interesting about this is that the distribution of machines doesn't change that much. But if you look at it over the decade that we've done this, the number of LPARs that are on the machines creeps up. And it wiggles around, like, you know, the 2 to 3 thing had a big jump last year, but it shrunk 11 to 30. I think that's just a sampling difference. But if you average it out over time, you'll see that there are more partitions on the machines, which I think is great because it doesn't necessarily mean it's an IBM I partition. It might be a Linux partition doing something interesting with data analytics or other things. And that's what I always hope for, that people do more things with the Power System server than just IBM I.
Good point. Good point. Doug, what are your thoughts on this chart?
I actually really agree with Tim on that last point about being able to leverage the Power Platform for more than just IBM I. But I think the ability for us to continue to grow, strengthen the computational power of each generation system helps us with the consolidation, which also allows customers to put more on the system, be it more IBM I or IBM I plus Linux and or AIX. So it's good to see the density growing in some cases here.
That's a great point. Virtualization is, you know, obviously been here for a long time and will continue to be part of the story going forward as we consolidate, whether on premise or in the cloud. So thank you, gentlemen, for talking about that. And over to Steve Will to talk about keeping current and the operating system question.
Yeah, so this data very well matches the trends we see with our internal data. Generally speaking here, folks, if you try and figure out where does this data fit with when we release things, the 2024 survey that we're talking about right now was taken in the fall of 2023, which is a year after 7.5 came out. And so we got about 20% of our clients in that year plus, 15 months or so, have adopted some 7.5. 4 years before that was when 7.4 came out, and so that's where half of our clients are. That's kind of the way things go, right? It takes about 20% of our customers about a year to decide to deploy a brand new release. The release that's just behind that has the majority, and people are starting to roll off the other, releases that are behind that. So this looks relatively normal. If you look for an anomaly here, 7.3 actually had more staying power than some releases do. People stayed on it a little longer and a little higher volume, but they are obviously, based on the survey, they're moving off of it into another more modern release. They've got 19% who were still there at the point that they were doing the survey. So, it's good for our business that we have people wanting to adopt the newer releases for the new capabilities.
Thank you, Steve. Tim, what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I think I write this every time, but I go through the numbers and I'll do it again in a model that I make. I think this represents the top, pick a number, third of the base that stays current and gets their software relatively fast, upgrades their hardware, reads newsletters, is part of the community. But there's a large part of the base that has this as kind of a machine in the corner. It works. They don't touch it very often. They often have third-party business partners supporting it. They often don't have software maintenance on the machines, which I think is crazy. But or they don't have hardware maintenance, more likely. And you get a very different picture of the base if you make some assumptions about the vintage of that other 2/3 of the base. And by the way, what I just said applies to Windows Server, Linux, Unix, any other platform I've ever seen, including the System 360 and its progeny. So I think there's a portion of the base that is driving this business for IBM. And then there's another portion that kind of hang back and they only move and change when they have to. And they really ought not to do that. I spend a lot of my time saying, bite the bullet, get current, stay current. And hopefully they'll start listening.
Great advice. Yeah, you would think the cybersecurity concerns alone would keep people current these days.
Absolutely.
So much. I mean, we got charts later today that talk about how big of a part of business IBM I is for a lot of our clients. Steve, over to you to talk about the IBM roadmap.
Yeah, so again, I think most of you who are watching this webcast know that every 3 years or so we do another major release. And so here we are headed into 2024. 7.5 is out there, well established. But just in case you haven't heard me say this, back in the just before our 7.4 timeframe, we crossed a threshold. We actually deliver more function in between releases now than we do with a specific major release. That's been our strategy since we created the technology refresh architecture way back in 7.1 to try and get to the point where when something was available, we could deliver it on the 2 most recent releases and not have to wait for another release. So we're busily developing the next major release, but most of the work that we're doing these days is in between those releases.
Steve, if I could just pop up for 1 second, I can't say enough about the technology release strategy. It is very, very good for the base. It's just the right way to do things, and it's something that should have been there all along, but nobody thought of it. Everybody did, blockbuster releases every 2 years, and patches in April and October, but it's a very good thing for the base.
Thanks. Yeah, and I agree. And we should think when we look at next year's survey, if there's something that we might want to ask about how frequently people adopt TRs. We have some metrics inside that help us see some of that, but I think it is good for the base and for those clients who do stay up to date. And I agree with you. There are a lot of folks who don't stay up to date. We hope that we're making it easier for them to stay up to date and get new value with that. All right, on the support roadmap, you can see that releases go through this normal life cycle where they have normal support and then they have a service extension, and then some releases end up with special service extensions beyond that. The most important part about this particular roadmap to me is that we're showing you that the next releases that'll follow 7.5 are going to be supported well out into the 2030s. I just think it's important for the whole customer base to understand that there is no end to this thing. And when we publish a roadmap like this, that's us showing confidence in that.
Just look at 7.2 was around for 12 years with extended support. Pretty crazy to see that and into the future. So hats off to IBM for a very solid roadmap around IBMI. Let's talk about staying current in the data center, and over to you, Douglas, to share your thoughts on this.
My first thought is I'm glad to see a nice big jump there in the Power10 platform. It's been a very strong platform for us. What did surprise me, it might just be a statistical anomaly, but the slight jump from 2023 to 2024 with the light blue column there on the far left. That's something we need customers to understand, that you're at a few different areas of high risk if you're not trying to modernize and upgrade. It's not just about replacing older systems. It's much more than that. It's a matter of getting you into a platform that's still supported with a modern operating system that you can do new things with while still maintaining all of your old logic or applications.
Good. Thanks, Douglas. Tim, your thoughts on the Power server?
Yeah, I mean, the upgrade cycle looks normal. I'm also glad to see Power10 up. But Power 9 didn't go down too much, and Power 8 is holding steady. And I would think that would change with the support being finished this year for that. I think that what happens is we have walls in this space. There was a wall at V5R4. There's another wall at 6.1. There's another wall at 7.1. And they get trapped in their applications. And this often happens with third-party applications where they go off maintenance and they think, oh, I don't need to pay for that anymore. And then they find that they can't move forward without paying a lot of extra.
I've never had a problem. Why do anything different, right?
That's right. And I understand that temptation as a business owner myself, but you've got to resist that. But the good news is that with 7.3 going dark and Power10 being a great value, I see a bunch of people going, all right, just get me to 7.4 on Power 10. I don't want to go all the way to 7.5 yet. So when I talk to business partners, that's the activity they're seeing. Is it enough? Does it make me entirely happy? Would I love for the whole base to upgrade tomorrow? Yeah, but I'm seeing this happen. I saw that happen last year, and I continue to see it happen this year.
Yeah. Okay. Dan, I know you work closely with the IBM and Power hardware support roadmap. Any comments on this chart from IBM?
Yeah, I mean, this is good just to kind of make sure our, customer base knows that, Power10 is our strategic platform at the moment, started at the end of 21, and then kind of our scale outline, which a lot of our small to medium customers came out in the middle of 22. So it was good to see that chart saying that, customer adoption of Power10 is going up. Power10 runs 7, 3, 4, and 5. Some new adapters and new things that come out will only be 7.4 and 7.5. But 7.3 and later on Power 10. Power 9 has kind of transitioned last year. Since now we have Power 10, Power 9 has kind of gone out of marketing, meaning we're no longer selling it, still supported. So, very large install base there. And then as you mentioned, Power 8 is, this year is going end of service, from a hardware maintenance standpoint. So good to see the trend of, Power 9 is probably going to have the majority of our customers for a little bit here as our customers look at where and when does it make sense to upgrade to Power 10?
Speaking of that, every year we ask about plans for upgrades. Back to you, Tim, to talk about upgrade plans.
I don't think this chart changes all that much, but it's a little bit brighter this year than even last year. And I think it was a little bit brighter last year than the year before. So I think that, it's going to be another good year for IBM on Power. And I think it was a growth year last year too. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we've had 2 years of growth for IBM on Power. In a server market, by the way, that's down. There is a server recession if you take out AI serving, and it's a big one. If you're Hewlett Packard and Lenovo, you're hurting right now because you're not getting any of that AI action, and you're sitting around waiting for people to upgrade their servers. And here we are, we're just doing what we do. We're just going through the motions, 20% of the base upgrades over the course of 4 or 5 years, and we're motoring along. I think it's great.
Very good. And Douglas, your thoughts on upgrades for software and hardware?
I think it's a great result here to see that upgrades are still at the front of the mind of the customers here, because it should be. Staying current allows you to take advantage of the latest technologies, be it obviously on the hardware side, but more importantly for us, I think right now is on the software side as well, especially as we focus strongly on modernizing people's applications, our customers' applications and our partners' applications. And that modernization should help drive a desire to upgrade and be on the latest current versions.
The next area that we all know that IBM very seldom sits in your data center by itself, or even in the cloud for that matter. So Steve, can you talk a little bit about some of the other operating systems around IBM and why that may be? And then I did have somebody say, well, sometimes the numbers don't hit 100%. That's because we allowed the survey takers to, for instance, like with Power 9 and 10, to click off on all the different levels of hardware that they have in their data center. So hence numbers don't always equal 100%. I guess maybe we need to spell that out in the future to make that a little clearer for some people. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, so yeah, no problem, Tom. So first of all, these numbers vary over time. Again, if you look at this from 10 years ago till now, the general trend is there's more Linux sitting next to us than there used to be, and that is likely to continue to grow. Despite the fact that it looks like there was a little drop from year to year here, it's really just statistical sampling. The general trend is more and more Linux sits next to IBM I. Of course, people still have some parts of their workloads running on Windows for things that aren't typically IBM I things. I do have to throw some love to the 17 or 18% who answer that they only do IBM I. Gosh, I love to run into those folks. But seriously, IBM I is great for most of the business transaction stuff that, our customers use it for. But there are some workloads, particularly as people are getting into doing more off-system analytics, doing some forward-facing applications that interact with the cloud, and maybe even doing some AI, even though there wasn't that much of it in that initial opening survey, which have a natural home more in Linux, right? So that's to be expected, and what we're hoping for is that more of that Linux ends up being Linux on Power, because so many of our clients have Power cycles to spend in addition to the I that they're using. So
You spend quite a bit of time working with customers on the cloud initiatives around this space. What are your thoughts on where do you run your IBMI workloads today?
Yeah, so this is, again, very reflective. IBM, if you look at one of our core things we talk about, we're a hybrid cloud and AI company. So hybrid cloud, giving you flexibility and where do you want to run, how do you want to pay for it? So this doesn't surprise me that, many customers like to stay on-prem. They refresh their hardware from Power Old to Power New. We have a private cloud option on-prem that a lot of our customers and service providers are taking. And then we have a bunch of people that have made the decision to move to public cloud. IBM has our Power Virtual Server offering that just clipped over 600 customers across all of our operating systems. So a lot of people are moving everything up to the cloud, whereas some customers are definitely doing the hybrid of maybe production on-prem with dev test in the cloud, or some kind of combination. So this makes sense to me that, and we have a great, portfolio or offering of different service providers that offer IBM I in, outside the data center or with managed services. So this data doesn't surprise me that, our customers are maybe shifting from, totally on-prem to now some mixture of where's the best to, move and have a workload running.
Thoughts on cloud and IBMI?
Yeah, I think in the longest of runs, you're going to have to change this question because it's going to be 100% hybrid. Anybody who doesn't have high availability and disaster recovery pushed out to the cloud, how can I say this aggressively? They should be fired.
Wow, that's a strong stance.
Yeah, there's no reason to not take advantage of the cloud for HA. All IBM I machines run mission critical workloads, and there's no excuse in 2024 not to have HA. There just isn't. And now you can do it easily, more easily, and at a reasonable price compared to where it was even 5 years ago. So it should all be that workload at the very least should be out there in the cloud.
Yeah. Well, you'll have to talk to some of the private business owners that I know that say I'm not putting my data in the cloud. Okay. So there is that group out there.
Be in a co-location facility where they own the gear. It's the concept.
Yep. Yeah, I get what you're saying. No doubt. All right. So then on to high availability and this slides. And Steve, I think we have you talking about what's going on with IBMI and high availability or backup and recovery, really.
Yeah. So a lot of clients think of a high availability strategy as some sort of backup and recovery strategy. That tends to not be as highly available as most clients would really need, but it's still better, far better than not doing it at all. And so a lot of different options for being able to do some sort of recovery. I think you're going to see more and more of it is going to be not physical tape, but as Timothy was talking about, putting some of that data in a cloud or ETL as we've got here. But I really am encouraged over the past 10 years to see the number of clients who are responding that they have a high availability solution, an actual high availability solution where they may only have to be down for an hour or two in case something goes wrong, up to 60%. I don't think that's truly indicative of the full marketplace. Those folks who are lagging behind are not necessarily doing high availability, but it's great to see that the people who are responding to the survey are moving in that direction.
Great. And for me, I think the biggest growth we've seen over the last decade is just the growth in virtual tape libraries too, and that you don't have to use physical tapes anymore. But on the flip side of it, it's the nice thing about this platform for years has been that you can back it up reliably and you can restore it, and that's really important when it comes to things like potential of ransomware and other things, disasters or whatever. We know and we feel good that IBM and its partners have given you great tool sets for being able to be highly resilient, or at least recover your business in a day or two in the case of a ransomware attack. We know organizations that are out for weeks, months because of ransomware may never come back in business. And IBMI world, you know, it's kind of like the Lonely Maytag man, if you remember that. IT initiatives, let's get into that and talk about what are on the minds of our customers out there. Steve, back over to you to talk about the top IT concerns. We allowed people to click off on just 5 items on this particular question. So just so everybody knows that, there is certainly more than 100% on this chart.
Right, and even with the top 5, what's amazing to me, the top 4, in fact, I think the top 5 year to year are the same and in the same order, but their numbers have grown. So if you just do a year to year compare, that means that where cybersecurity might have been 69 or something like that last year, and now it's 79. I mean, even more people are thinking of those top 4 things as being their top 4 things. And so it's one of the reasons, if you see any of my presentations on our strategy, our direction, what we've been investing in, we invest in those areas. The other thing, and I know we're going to let Timothy talk about this, you essentially almost doubled the number of folks who are making one of their top 5 choices artificial intelligence and machine learning. I know that's number 10 or something on the list, but it is growing quite a bit.
And I think it's going to continue to grow, Steve. I mean, I will not be surprised if it's 40 or 50% in the next survey. And it could go even higher. This generative AI thing, and there's a lot of different kinds of AI, right? There's all kinds of algorithms and statistical things and machine learning algorithms and all this other stuff. But the one that matters right now is generative AI. This is the chatty stuff, as I call it. And it's the one that can write code and write manuals and respond to prompts and answer questions and not make you go out and look at Google. And this is going to be transformative. I think it's a layer that goes on top of existing systems or wraps around it like the web did. It's not going to replace, here's the funny thing, it's not going to replace the IBMI systems, but there's a whole lot of stuff running on Windows Server and a whole lot of stuff running on Linux that it might. So we might be an island in a storm. And it's just funny to think about it that way. But anyway, it's going to become more important over time.
Thank you, Timothy. You know, since cybersecurity was number 1, I will chat a little bit about this since we at Fortra do a lot with cybersecurity on the IBMI platform. For over 2 decades now, we've been doing our free IBMI scan. And quite honestly, in the market, we find a lot of systems that are still horribly configured, and there still are enough people out there that take the stance that, you know, IBMI is behind the firewalls, it's secure, I don't need to worry about it, our network team takes care of it. And I'm here to say we personally have seen many different things where all of a sudden there's an IP address showing up in exit point monitoring that we do. So anyways, this is the different tool sets. The percentages in the green represent, or in the bottom half of each of the histograms represent, you know, what is installed on your systems from the customers that took this survey. You know, there are a lot of homegrown solutions out there too on IBMI, but some of the areas that, you know, concern me the most these days are ransomware. It's a reality for IBMI. It can happen if your IBMI is a part of your network, which it is, and you're sharing it out in, you know, as just another drive. It is potentially going to happen that somebody could encrypt parts of directories or the entire server. We have business partners that have helped customers restore from ransomware. These things can happen. You can't ignore IBMI because it is your critical business system. So you can read the rest out here and the levels and stuff, but I generally tell people if I'm not concerned about regulations, but I'm concerned truly about security, it's AV and some form of exit point that I want for my IBMI server. That's where I get started. I want to protect my system. And then onto the cybersecurity challenges that are out there. This is an ever-changing world. Steve, your thoughts on this?
Well, one of the best things about our community is that even though, especially in small shops, people tend to lack knowledge and they're concerned about the changing threats, there are partners out there who have the skills, who can, do engagements to help clients. And so if people are in this space and, where they're concerned about these things, do talk to the experts. I mean, we do as much as we can to put things into the operating system that help you, but you still need to know how to use them. And a lot of clients really gain benefit from the partners who have both products and practices around this stuff.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at what gets people in trouble when it comes to cybersecurity on any server, one of the biggest issues is configuration. And just like any other platform, IBM, actually, I shouldn't say just like any other platform, because IBM has really done a great job of providing the security features in the operating system to protect you. But unfortunately, we've seen them not configured properly. And that's, goes into that lack of security knowledge and skill set. Or some cases, it's just the fear. And then in other cases, it's the administrator that's been there for 30 years, doesn't want to let management know that their system is poorly configured. We run into that too. So that's just in this day and age, it's just a bad stance to take. So developing the knowledge, like Steve points out, there are many individual consultants. Again, I'll go back to Common. Common's a great place to get educated on IBMI's cybersecurity. But these threats are going to continue to change. The bad actors are going to get more active. We're seeing a few more CVEs around IBMI that we've never seen in the past. Things like that, because it's just the bad actors are trying to get into your systems. There's no denying that. It's here to stay, and we're going to be in a constant battle around that. And then regulations. Regulations, I used to say, was kind of the driving force, even when we started this survey, around why people were concerned about cybersecurity on IBMI was more from the regulations. But now it's really the fear of having the ransomware, or being hacked, or getting somebody that's inside your system that you didn't know was there because they're using a common user account, things like that. So the regulations are here to stay. I do run into a portion of the market that don't have any regulations at 23%, but nonetheless, most of us have some form of regulation. And if we aren't concerned about cybersecurity, then I think we're living under a rock somewhere, or we're in a situation where our business partner is taking care of all of our cybersecurity for us, and I'm not worried about it. Even that, I say you should really be checking over their shoulders and doing some of your own independent penetration testing, or whatever else that you might do to verify, is my IBMI as secure as it should be. All right, enough about that. Cybersecurity, we can talk about that all day. Let's get over to Steve to talk about different applications running on IBMI, and I think truly what makes this platform unique.
Yeah, so I'm really glad that we continue to ask this question, because with the thousands of ISVs out there in the world, of course, we have some of the major players who have a significant part of our marketplace. But the key here is that 70% of our clients have some level of in-house written application, whether they do it all themselves or they put some sort of addition onto the ISV application that they're using, and lots of people do that. And so that's one of the reasons why that modernization of IBMI applications is number 2 on the list of top concerns, right? Because so many people have those. And it's also one of the reasons why we spend so much of our time trying to make sure that the right options are out there for development. We'll get to a couple survey questions about that soon too.
Sounds good. Tim, over to you on the different applications.
Yeah, I would love to see what it looks like on Windows. I would love to ask the Windows space the same question and find out if their distribution is the same or wildly different. And I really don't have any idea how many people have coded stuff in C# or Java or whatever, basic or whatever. But it is what makes us unique, as Steve says. And I love the fact that there are still people who believe that they can create custom applications that run their business better than third-party stuff. because I don't like a homogenized world. It's boring for one thing. And
Well,
for another
competitive
thing,
advantage, if you think about it,
well,
if
that's what I'm
you're,
saying. This is
yeah,
exactly right. And that people in this base still believe competitive advantage comes from knowing your customers, knowing your business, and knowing how to code the application. I love that because I don't see that in a lot of other places. I see people put their hands up in the air. So I wonder if it's even 50% house written in Windows or 25%. I would think it would be lower, but I may just be wishing that.
yeah, that's
So I don't know,
interesting.
but it would be interesting in contrast.
Yeah, let's talk about development languages. I know we could talk all day on each of these, but probably got to speed things up a little bit here.
Yeah.
Steve, your thoughts on development languages?
Well, first of all, with all of the effort that we've taken to make RPG a more sort of normal language that people can use in free format and so on, it's great to see that people are continuing to write new stuff. But there's a whole group of what we call open languages, right, from Java down to Python, PHP, Node, et cetera, that has significant usage. And we're going to see more and more of that, particularly as people do more service-oriented modernization. But if you look on the right-hand side and you see that when people are writing RPG, you know, the large majority of them are using a free format. That's that ability to have a free format RPG that's so much easier for younger people to learn and so on. That's great to see. We still have to figure out how to address those folks who are using fixed format or even worse, the non-LE RPG stuff. But again, those are running their businesses and there's no reason to force them off, but we certainly have advantages to moving them forward.
That is the unique thing about IBM. They could be running Power10 7.5 and doing non-LE, I can't even say it,
ILE.
non-ILE RPG, right?
Yeah.
What about
Yeah.
open source, Steve? What are your thoughts on that with IBM? Kind of a continuation, right?
Yeah, this is kind of the development tools, et cetera, that go along with all of that. And it's certainly the case that more and more of our community is picking up on things like Git and Jenkins and so on. I think you're going to see this grow significantly as modernization, because it's one of the biggest things that our customers are caring about, moves into how do I modernize my processes and my tools, not just the application that I use.
Very good. And Tim, your thoughts on open source for I?
I agree. Those bars can only get further to the right on all of this stuff. Well, maybe not the Apache web server. Nginx is pretty good.
Yep.
But the thing that I think will be added to this is an AI inference layer. At some point, that needs to be packaged up, dropped in paste, run in a Linux partition, I don't know what, and insulated in all the ways that this stuff is just kind of brought in, even though it's alien to IBM. You make it so it's not alien, that it looks native. And I think that might be the only thing we need in the coming years, so that people don't have to struggle to, so consider that a request, Steve. So people don't have to struggle to add inference.
In the idea base.
They can just point to it like a Java server and off it goes. And that's the only thing I would see changing.
Interesting. Well, speaking of our application developers, these are the tools that they said they're using. Steve, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so if you look at the largest bar there, that ADTS stuff, when I talk to clients, they aren't using this in general. Most of them aren't using it to do large development projects, but 80% of our customers still find needs to just quick spin up SEU or PDM and do something quick. The fact that more than half of our clients are using RDI is a great thing to know. The growth of VS Code, which is incredibly powerful as a development tool, is great to see. And again, these numbers don't add up to 100% because most people use more than one tool, and every once in a while they need to use that ADTS stuff. While I would prefer that we put things in our other tools like RDI and Visual Studio Code and Merlin that encourage people to not have to do that, again, we're not taking things away, and so it's interesting to see.
I would agree. Another thing that kind of goes along with this platform, and for years, my space has been automation and helping people run the platform unattended. And there's a lot of customers that do, and those who don't, generally, there's a mindset or some business application behind the scene that has been built to be run manually. It's always a challenge out there for customers. Do I spend the effort to make things automated, or do I leave them run the way they are? But today's IBMI platform certainly can be highly automated, and just talk to me. I'll give you some ideas on that. All right, let's look at the outlook here and move right over to Steve again to talk about how critical this platform is across the board for your IBMI customers.
This is one of the most heartening things, except maybe for the very last question. If you add up the 76 to 100 and the 51 to 75, so that's the customers who use IBMI for their business applications in the majority. I mean, that's 70% of our clients. That makes perfect sense. That's what we see. The client base who uses and loves IBMI, that's what they use IBMI for, is for that critical business platform. And that's why we continue to invest to make sure that we are always the best platform for their critical business workloads.
Thank you, Steve. And then Tim, over to you to talk about this commitment to the platform and what we see in the marketplace. I know this is something we've had in the survey all along, just to get a feel for who's leaving, who's coming, what's happening. What are your thoughts?
I love this chart because it confirms my good feelings, even though it doesn't look like it. I've seen this chart now for 10 years, and I've had other, surveys. We've looked at other data, talked to people. It's a lot harder to move than anybody ever thinks. And projects that try to do that often fail. The attrition rate in the base now, and it was awful late 90s and early 2000s. But I think we have what I call the diehards now, and it's very difficult for them to move, and I'm thankful for that. And they don't want to move either because they love writing their programs and doing their thing and in their business, do business. So I love that. And I don't believe a bit of what they say that they're going to leave the platform. And the evidence suggests that there's always pressure. There's always some new IT manager or merger or acquisition that puts the pressure on it. And we do lose some of those battles to the Oracle application stack and database or whatever. But by and large, it's very difficult for these people to move. And I am, again, so grateful.
Yeah. Steve, what are your thoughts on this one?
No, I'll echo what Tim said and dive a little deeper. That wedge, that's the 10% who say they're going to migrate all applications off. The reason that we have that secondary question there is that unless you actually have a plan to move off within the next 2 years, that's an actual plan, everybody else who's in that answering really doesn't have a plan. It's more likely, like Timothy said, some new leader thinks they might want to do that or that they ought to do that, but they find that the value of IBMI is too big and the expense of trying to move all this, particularly custom written code, to some other platform just isn't worth the effort. Not when you could spend much less of that money and remain on IBMI and get more value from it. And while every platform,
risk, right?
And have less risk, yeah. While every platform out there loses some customers every year, our business results show that we continue to gain customers as well. And so, again, I'm not worried about that. I love to see the clients who are going to be moving into a cloud environment. It's a testament to the fact that there is commitment there, and we'll see that even more on the next chart.
Yeah, speaking of the next chart, Steve, what do you think about this ROI chart?
This is why clients love this platform. When they look at all the value that they get from the workloads that run on IBMI and how comparatively they have to spend less to make that happen, mean, that's the value of the platform. It's the integrated nature. It's the stuff that we do in automation of data management and workload management and so on. The ability to do with one system what it takes many other systems in networks or grids to be able to do on other architectures. I mean, that's why people stayed. They love it, and they love that they're part of this community. That's certainly the case. But from a business point of view, they get way better value from us, the IBMI, than they do from other platforms.
Douglas, welcome to a high ROI platform, right? What are your thoughts?
This speaks volumes to like Steve said, to the passion of our customers, but it also shows how much we also care about providing such a great product to our customers. And we share that passion with them. Being able to do so many things with one single platform through one purchase is almost unheard of in today's world, where you have so many vendors doing so many different things. With what we're able to provide out of the box, and then with the way we can integrate with so many third-party solutions and so many open source solutions, and we're always looking for new solutions, and we're expanding what we can do with open source. And that means it's a valuable investment for customers when they're purchasing it.
Very good. Very good. Well, let's talk about demographics here, right here at the end. I've had a few questions about that. You know, we do make this as worldwide as possible, although I will say we did not translate it to any other language other than to English, which means we didn't translate it around the globe. So we maybe dropped off a little bit in Latin America this last year and some places in Europe, but we do get a good percent of customers around the globe. And then we also get a good mixture of different size organizations. You know, I run into customers that have 20 people that use IBMI. I have another customer that has 10,000 end users, you know, so there's just a variety of customers using the platform, give us a good mixture. And the same when it comes to people who responded to it. We certainly do have administrators and IT managers and develop director level people that fill out the survey. So I want to thank all of you who participated this year. It's fantastic to have. Steve, what are your thoughts on the kind of the value proposition around IBMI staffing, what you see?
Well, it's not at all a surprise that it doesn't take very many people to administer the platform, right? And it's also not much of a surprise that there are folks who have developers in their shops, given how much custom code we saw answered before. I think one of the things that we are seeing with this data that skews a little bit from the normal is that when you see that 16% of the people who responded have 21 or more developers, that suggests it suggests two things. It could be large clients who are responding with large staffs, or the ISVs, the software developers who produce things for this platform, respond to this survey, and they have developers on that. And in fact, I think when we go to the industry page, we'll see that is certainly the case. But the fact that clients can run this system, which is so business critical for them, with relatively few people, again, talks about the value of this platform.
Very good. And then speaking of industry, this is a very widely used system across many industries. Any surprises here, Steve, or what you expect?
Again, with banking, finance, distribution, et cetera, that makes perfect sense. The strange one, and it's there every year, is the fact that this survey makes it look like the third biggest consumer of IBMI is software developers. And that reflects the fact that the people who are responding here are the folks who do software development either in their organizations, and they didn't even talk about what the industry was of their business, or they are the ISVs who are out there and responding to this. And thanks ISV community for participating in this. But it's not the case that the third biggest group of people who buy our systems are software developers. They develop software for banking, finance, distribution, et cetera. Right.
Good point. Good point. And then I know, Brandon, we've had you hanging out there in the background, but I know you're responsible for, or at least the team at IBM and ultimately you, for the client stories. Any thoughts on client stories around IBMI?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have over 100 of these. I've written them all myself, so it's been a great experience interviewing all these different clients and learning about their industries and their businesses and how they're using the IBMI platform. So go check out our client story page. It's linked from our main IBMI landing page. Also, if you just Google IBMI client stories, it's the first thing that'll come up. Go check that out. We have over 100 from all around the world in all different industries, and we're continuously adding new ones. So reach out to me if you want to get your company or your business featured on the client story page. We'd love to have you. So we update this page on about a quarterly basis. So please reach out to me.
Thank you, Brandon. Appreciate your patience and waiting there. So it's just, from the survey, I've had people ask, well, how many people took it? Just to give you an idea, last year we had about 300 people take the survey. This year, about 270. At its height, we had 850. We've been doing kind of the similar survey for 10 years, so there's a bit of fatigue out there. For those who have taken the survey every single year, God bless you. Thank you so much. Dunkashane and everything else that goes with that. But anyways, and then security. We know security, it's been on the concerns of many people, 79% again this year. Modernization has jumped up to #2, so definitely more efforts going on. And hey, we're going to be here for a while. We have to get off that green screen, or we have to do other types of modernization. It's not always just changing green screen to GUI or browser. Cloud is certainly becoming a higher item for people. Again, you can read many of these other things. It's great to see 7.4 and 7.5 be as popular as they are, along with Power10. And then, of course, the return on investment, or the total cost of ownership realization by customers, is really important to see high again in the mid-90s. I also want to leave you with the fact that there are many IBMI resources out there. You will see the list out here. I've talked about Common Europe and Common US, talked about IT Jungle, of course, some of their competitors, Tech Channel, PowerWire. Japan has a new IBM club to replace the old user group that they had. We have The Incredible I by Peg Tuttle. I'll be on that here shortly today. Built on Power, a newsletter by Torbjörn over in Sweden, which is awesome. iChimes, a lot of great topics there. And then, of course, don't forget about all the user groups. And if you're looking for a user group to join, you can go out to the Fortra website, and we have all that information out there too. Last polling question I'm going to open up is one for Fortra. If we can help you out with anything, would love to do that. We have the free security scan. We talked to many customers about what's the best option for you when it comes to HA, DR, backup and recovery. We don't sell VTLs, but I talked to a lot of customers about virtual tape libraries. We also can help you out with automation around document management and business intelligence. We can help you out with that. And, replacing green screen query, or even helping you out with a few other things in that regards. And then automation and monitoring, we do a lot of that for customers around the globe. Several questions that we have out here. If you are interested in the PowerPoint, just email me. That's probably the best way, and I'll get you a copy of it. If you just want the charts and stuff, they're in the PDF. You can screen capture them, do whatever you want with that. One of the questions we had was about showing the reduction in the number of servers. Is there a total out there that you can provide? I don't have one. I think, Timothy, you probably do one of the better jobs of estimating how many servers out there. But I think when we think about that, it's not necessarily how many servers, it's how much CPW that's out there, because people have consolidated so much over the years. Tim, what are your thoughts on that?
I'll do that next week. For Monday, I'll probably do the hardware and then the operating systems after. So I'll take a stab at that. And yeah, the
Yeah.
CPU base is like the mainframe base. You know, that thing has gone up and to the right for my entire life, and it has never gone down. And I think CPW for power systems running IBMI is not going to be any different. It'll be a fun chart to try to build that. I might do that.
Yeah, very good. So any of the IBMers, any thoughts on counts or, you know? Yeah, I think it's a really hard thing to think about because of how large these servers have gotten over the years. And then let's see, I talked about the 100% already. Oh, and then we have some different, Michael Myers talking about IBMI reference site and blogs out there. So that's awesome stuff, some additional things. Michael, I apologized. I promised to add you to that for next year. Oh yeah, there will be a year 11. And then, okay, so that's pretty good on the questions. Yeah. Okay. Some tips on different questions to ask. I appreciate that. You know, I've always looked at this survey as the community survey. Yes, Help Systems started it and Fortra has carried it on, but quite honestly, it's about the community, the ecosystem around it. That's why we've been doing it. Just to remind everybody out there, Fortra is a cybersecurity company. We started in automation. We help people out with automation, cybersecurity, business intelligence, document management, and we do a lot of sizing of your next purchase of servers. But if you're concerned about cybersecurity, take a look at everything that we do today: email security, unstructured data security, digital risk protection, secure file transfer. We do a lot of penetration testing for customers. We even include IBMI in that. And then managed services. We can monitor everything you have concerns about from a cybersecurity perspective. So with that said, I want to thank our panelists, the IBM team for helping go through all the questions each and every year with the Fortra team, our marketing team at Fortra for all the efforts that they put into the graphics, the story, and everything. Year 10 has been as successful as year 1 and all the other ones in there. So thank you to all of our presenters today.
And thank you, Tom, the Fortra team for doing this as well, but also thank you for everybody who filled in the surveys. It's fantastic details to review year over year.
You're welcome. And yes, I agree. Thank you all. Have a great 2024. We'll see you in 2025. Bye-bye.
Bye.